Sometimes you just got to talk things through. And sometimes you need someone else to help you make sense of a situation. And that's what we're going to do on this segment of the Gig Geezer. And while I'm at it, my next live stream, I'm speaking, is this coming Wednesday, June 11, 2025. And my guest is Madame CEO herself, Miss Ruth of Giroux Trucking. That's right, Miss Ruth, Madame CEO. She started in the delivery and transport in New Jersey, but has since moved to Texas. And while she has not had much on YouTube in recent months, she says that she's been uploading stuff on Instagram. So she's still active in social media, but she was more than eager, more than willing to accept my invitation to have a conversation with me on I'm Speaking. So again, this coming Wednesday, June 11, 2025 at 9 o'clock Eastern, I'll be speaking with Madame CEO herself, Miss Ruth of Giroux Trucking. Well, it's a rainy, ugly, overcast Monday afternoon. Is June 9th, 2025. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, thanks for coming by. If you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, thanks also for coming by. Hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. So I ask you to be the judge and also help me to make sense of this. I happened to peruse a Facebook group, and a driver boasted of how he earned over $400 for a working day doing Roadie and Amazon Flex. For Amazon Flex, he earned $140. Then he earned $145 and $121 respectively on Roadie. Then he boasts, "This is how you do it, goddammit. That's right, I'm the trash man, bitches." Before I get into the specifics of how his money was earned, there's some background to all this on how he, on other posts that he made on his page and in the Facebook group page. First of all, he gave 10 reasons why he doesn't give a damn about miles when accepting a roadie opportunity. The main reason is that he rents a vehicle. Next, it's not his vehicle. Then, usually it's unlimited miles when he rents the vehicle. Next reason is that the daily rate is constant. He believes that more miles driven equals more opportunities and more money earned. He can also flip the keys back once he's done. He doesn't have to worry about insurance. So when he flips, while he's flipping, that is stacking money, he's not dealing with insurance issues. He doesn't have to deal with the so-called wear and tear, because that's a broke man's concern, he says. And he's always in hustle mode. Now, he scoffs at most people's attempts at rationalizing, or at least trying to get him to rationalize, or their vain attempt at rationalizing what and how he does things. He maintains while they're figuring out things like taxes and algebra, he's out there stacking routes and stacking money. Worry less about me, worry less about my moves, and more about why you're still broke and managing with your strange calculations. Then he goes on to brag, leave the hustle math to the grown folks. So this dude's coming across, pimping his walk and grabbing his Johnson. He's badder than John Shaft. He's a bad motherfucker out there. Now, what I understand is that he works the Chicago market. And so, this is an interesting case. Now, I've been on record as saying that it's all about what you do at the end of the day, at the end of the week, and at the end of the month. And that was my response to folk who questioned my sanity and my rationale for doing many of the things I did upon my early ownership and operation of this Sprinter/cargo van. And just in this segment of the Gig Geezer, I've already been on record as saying that once you consider like cost per mile as guide and not gospel, because I compare it to like the weather forecast, taking it as guide and not gospel. And then in another segment of the Gig Geezer, I suggested that one should not get caught up in cost per mile at all, because it could cost you money earning opportunities because you're such a strict adherent of the cost per mile calculations and how it affects your ability to negotiate for brokered opportunities or just considering and accepting delivery and transport opportunities. Now, this is the post that caught my attention. He showed 2 Roadie XD runs that he accepted and completed. The first had 27 stops, earning him $61.67. And he covered an estimated 38 miles, according to the app. The other one, he earned $83.93, completing 36 deliveries, covering an estimated 48 miles. So that's 63 stops, 87 miles for $145.60. Now, I'm going to admit, that's not far from what I was doing when I was in the Federal Express personal vehicle program. The base pay was $150 to $160, at least the last time I did Federal Express opportunities, which is in 2023, if memory serves me correct. 2023. It was $150 to $160 a day. The main people, the regular folk, the staff, they earned over $200 a day, but they had to do at least 100 stops a day. And I don't know what that number was, but they had to do a lot of stops. But what I did know was that when they did those stops, their route was rather tight. And so therefore, the number of stops kind of justified. But I did a lot of stops as well, but my route was not as tight as theirs. It was actually stops that they didn't want to do. So the guy who organized things, he pulled those stops, and then that comprised my route. And so I've done almost as many as 100 stops for that shit, $150, $160. And in fact, just for full disclosure, he and I kind of went back and forth in a respectful way about him paying me $200 plus a day, especially since I had the capacity with this Sprinter/cargo van. Now, the second Roadie run that he did was 49 deliveries, covering 105 miles, and that earned him $121.41. He didn't describe his Amazon Flex opportunities. All that's known is he said he earned $140. So I doubt if that was a single run. Now, he said it took him 4.5 hours to complete the 49 stops covering 105 miles. So I'm going to guess it may have taken him a couple of hours to complete that 38-mile run. But if I were to base things off of my experience doing Federal Express, the way it was, depending on how your route was set up, if you can bust 20 stops an hour, you're really moving it. But typically, you're going to do anywhere between 15 and 20 stops, and 17 was kind of like that sweet spot. So if we presume then that 17 number, it probably took him a couple of hours, let's say 2.5 hours, to complete that run. So let's say it took him then 6.5 to 7 hours to do those 2 Roadie runs. Now, I'm wondering, actually, where did he have time to do the Amazon runs? So altogether with Roadie, he may have spent 12 hours. So where did he get the time to do Amazon Flex? Okay, where did he get the time? Was it first thing in the morning, or was he able to fit an Amazon Flex run in between all this? I don't know, but I do know this about Amazon Flex. If your ass is late completing those runs too many times, you will be deactivated. That I do recall from my experience with Amazon Flex. So some things just don't add up. But let's just take for what the fuck he says, about the $400 in a day. Right now, I'm thinking that the $265 is probably the more realistic number that he actually earned in the day. It's safe to say that he put in some hours to earn $400. And quite honestly, that shit adds up. How does it add up? Well, you can talk about literally wear and tear on a vehicle when you're doing a lot of those stops. When you're doing multiple stop opportunities, regardless whether it's city or in the suburbs, you're talking about starting, stopping, braking, fast accelerations, possibly hard braking, and then depending on the time of the year, you're talking about heat, which affects that affects the engine as well, the engine life. And so that's where maintenance come in with regular oil changes, things like that. Yes, definitely wear and tear factor. So the other thing is that when you're putting in that type of time, those type of hours, the body keeps score. The body keeps score. And when that body hits that equal tab, it exacts something out of you, and you'll know it. Now, again, he boasted of earnings on a single day. I can see the numbers, but something isn't adding up. At least this is just my observation. The hours spent out there actually don't add up. And while he's talking about renting cars, that shit adds up too, fast. And in another segment of the Gig Geezer, I talked about how if someone were to rent a box truck or rent a Sprinter van, but we're going to talk about these numbers with him renting a vehicle to do Roadie and Amazon Flex and whatever else the fuck he's doing. So let's use the Columbia market first. Let's presume he uses an SUV. That gives him some space to work with when doing Amazon Flex, and also with other gig apps as well, like Roadie. Space equals money. I think we can agree on that. Now, in my market, renting that SUV could run $405 a week. And that's assuming like a Tuesday through Saturday rental. That also includes extras for roadside assistance and a damage waiver, which allows you to flip the keys if you were to total the vehicle or if there's any damage done to the vehicle while you are operating their vehicle. But his market is Chicago. It is highly conceivable then he probably rented a compact car, maybe subcompact, but let's presume a compact car, like a Nissan Versa. That could run about $561 a week. And by the way, what I used, as you see here, were examples from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. There are other places out there, but Enterprise is one of the main places out there. And again, that's assuming the $561 a Tuesday through Saturday rental. And the same extras were included for roadside assistance and damage waiver. So what he's got to earn up front, if you want to use Chicago, is at least $500 to cover his rental costs. And if you include gas, that's probably another $100. So he got to stack up 6 bills before he can really talk any shit, if you really do it right. So that's 1 or 2 days worth of work. But what did others say from the Facebook group? And here's where I'm inviting y'all to chime in as well. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. And while I'm at it, my next live stream I'm speaking is this coming Wednesday, June 11, 2025. And my guest is Madame CEO herself, Miss Ruth of Jeru Trucking. That's right, Miss Ruth, Madame CEO. She started in the delivery and transport in New Jersey, but has since moved to Texas. And while she has not had much on YouTube in recent months, she says that she's been uploading stuff on Instagram. So she's still active in social media. But she was eager. She was more than eager, more than willing to accept my invitation to have a conversation with me on I'm Speaking. So again, this coming Wednesday, June 11, 2025 at 9 o'clock Eastern, I'll be speaking with Madame CEO herself, Miss Ruth of Jeru Trucking. So, going back to what they were talking about. One person said, y'all drive for anything. Another person says, well, that's some hustling. I'm a gig poacher and I do about $30 to $50 an hour in my truck. He went on to say he worked anywhere between 3 and 6 hours a day. He did also say, nice work. Don't run yourself and your car down. Another person said, that's not worth it at all. Then another person said, people like this are why I stopped doing roadie. The pay was way too low. And when people like this are celebrating this kind of hustle, dang. Another person said, this is not the bragging you think it is. Another person said, he's part of the problem. Another person said, you're going to have fun or a stroke come tax time. In other words, you know, he's claiming he's doing all this shit, but is he taking care of business in terms of, keeping up with his expenses and all? Or, we don't know. Another person said, that will be a hard pass. You have to factor in everything. In fact, that would be my reply to all this. When you're out there, regardless of a gig app or brokered opportunity or even cash game, you've got to factor in a lot of things and when making your decision in terms of what you're going to accept, what you're going to bid on, how people are going to pay you for your services rendered. There's a lot of factors that should be taken into consideration. Now, another person said, you can make that during a regular job. But that opened the door for these other type of people who replied. Now, some said, some were saying, there aren't many jobs that pay that type of money in a day, $400 in a day. One person said, $300+ in a day? I'll take it. Another person, a couple of viewers actually asked, well, how do I sign up for Roadie XD? But then here's where this driver, this bragging driver came in. He said, oh yeah, dealing with asshole supervisors and idiot co-workers, people telling you when to come and go, you can keep that shit. Well, those are the comments that were said from that page. Those are some of the comments or observations people made. And again, my observation is going to be, you got to take a lot of things into consideration. But again, I invite your feedback on this. Do you think the guy is a fool? Do you think he's a crackhead? Do you think he's a thirsty? Sounds like he's a little bit of everything. But people are going to do what they're going to do out there. How they do it, you may agree with it, you may not. But then again, but another thing is going to be time factor. We'll see if he's still around 6 months later. So that's all I had to share for this segment of the Gig Geezer. And I hope to see y'all on Wednesday night when I'm speaking with Madame CEO, Miss Ruth of Jeru Trucking. And also, hey, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.